Sunday, opening game. 2 11-5 teams. A rematch from both earlier this year and a playoff game last year. Ravens going to Nashville to play the Titans.
Game of the weekend.
Yeah, I agree with that.
I think it's the most
fascinating
matchup, and I think it features the most explosive offenses. Like, I know the story between Cleveland and Pittsburgh is cool, but I think these are two teams that are playing extremely well right now, at least offensively. We could talk about the Titans' defense, but I think these two teams, they're capable of 40 points.
Dude, I didn't realize until right now because I've had the rushing leader stats in front of me because we mentioned Jonathan Taylor before. Yo, not only did Derrick Henry have 2,000 yards, do you know how further ahead he is from second place?
I think by 500.
Yeah.
The craziest stat, they said if he missed the first 8 games a year, he still would have came in 4th.
Dude.
He is ferocious.
Derrick Henry had 2,027 yards rushing. Dalvin Cook second, 1,557.
Yeah.
And to be fair, Dalvin Cook missed 2 games, but still, that's... And then Jonathan Taylor is third with 11.
Lamar got to 1,000.
Back-to-back years, bro.
Yeah, man.
How do we feel about Lamar going into this playoff? Because I think, is it fair to say that there's less pressure on him going into this playoff run because maybe expectations for Baltimore aren't that high like they were last year?
And I think they're flying on their radar a little bit. Now, granted, they've had a pretty easy slate of games the past month or so. That's why I think they've picked up some momentum.
By the way, when that's the case for Baltimore, that's historically when they're just like in the AFC title game out of nowhere. Right? Like those Flacco years where they're this 5th seed or the 6th seed and they're playing in Pittsburgh in the opening week or some shit like that. And then all of a sudden they go into New England and beat them. And then so this is the kind of style that Ravens and Ravens fans kind of hope for, where there's no expectation.
They still have a fantastic roster. Like, no one's denying the roster talent they have. I think it's just whether it was Lamar issues, and then I think they had a couple key defensive players get injured earlier. I know Campbell's been banged up, Marlon Humphrey's been injured, Jimmy Smith's in and out of the lineup. It's just things haven't quite clicked. But I think over this past month, especially their running game's coalesced. They're finally letting J.K. Dobbins carry the load. Mark Ingram is in game and he carries.
Finally, bro. I was asking about this since like week 8.
Mark Andrews finally healthy. Remember, Mark Andrews was hurt a bit.
Yep.
And
Hollywood Brown, pretty consistent last couple of weeks too.
Yeah, I want to see Hollywood Brown just get more tougher at the catch point. I know this is kind of a nerd thing to say. I don't think I've ever seen a receiver so dangerous, so explosive, not want to be physical. Like if a defender's near him, I worry if he's going to catch the ball. I want to see them improve that part of his game because it is very frustrating.
He's like 5'7", 160 pounds.
I know, but I want to at least
tiny.
I know, I want him to at least be somewhat physical. I just feel like whenever a corner is near him, like he just immediately falters, and it's just I need you to make tougher guys, especially in that kind of offense. So I don't know. I guess that's the one frustrating thing. But besides that, Baltimore's just been clicking, and I think it's just exciting. I think football's always better when the Ravens are good because it's just something about the Ravens, this aura about them. It's just intensity. Like, you just know if they're on their game, it's going to be entertaining, and the opposition, it's going to be a lot of pain. But then again, the opposition has Derrick Henry and A.J. Brown.
Yeah. Well, dude, I think we got to show some love to Corey Davis.
Oh,
dude
definitely.
Had a monster year.
He'll be getting love in March come that payday. Probably not from the Titans, but...
Yeah. It's going to be interesting to see what happens with him because... Is someone going to pay him to be the number 1 wide receiver? Because I know he got drafted in the first round and he was the 5th pick overall. Yeah. But I think his calling is to be this guy opposite an alpha like A.J. Brown.
See. It depends on the market is because, as we all know, like
Allen
Robinson, Kenny Galladay, Juju Smith-Schuster. We'll see if Tampa franchises Godwin. So it's a crazy market. We'll see what determines it. But in this matchup, though, I'm just so excited by both offenses because I think even though Tennessee is kind of in a position where they kind of want to duplicate what they did from last year because you want to run the ball with Derrick Henry. You don't want Tannehill to play from behind. And it's just, I think their defense has regressed to the point where you want their defense to be off the field as much as possible. But then again, Tennessee has more firepower this year. So it's going to be really interesting to see how Arthur Smith puts this game plan together because it's okay. We're a ball control offense, but they have so many explosiveness on the outside. It's like, what can we do?
Bro, I just remembered the Butler and Harbaugh incident.
Oh.
We got that too. Remember Vrabel and Harbaugh?
To be fair,
there's some animosity in this game, bro.
There is.
I love it.
To be fair, Malcolm Butler should worry about covering receivers because he's been getting torched a lot lately. Brandon Cooks, Devontae Adams.
How crazy is it that he's going to live off that one play forever?
Yeah, but then he got benched in that Super Bowl. Healthy scratch. That never made sense to me.
Holy shit, that is crazy.
To be fair, that whole Tennessee defense, outside of like Byron and maybe Jeffrey Simmons, like that defense has really been bad. Like it's worse than last year, and Vrabel, as good as he is, he can't really make up for it. And I don't know. I think that's like the big concern. Even though both teams could score a lot, it's just the Ravens, they could bring pressure. They have the corners on the outside. You just trust their defense to make more plays. While with Tennessee, it's like they're last in the league in sacks for a reason. I think they have 17 sacks on the year, lowest total ever for a playoff team, and they're not necessarily stopping the run well either. And you got Baltimore where they run read option. It's just oof.
First quarterback to throw 23 attempts loses. It feels like both of these teams don't want their quarterbacks throwing much.
Right, but like Lamar could do damage against this Titans defense.
Yeah, he definitely
I don't think
this is a nice so this is a really good matchup if you're a Ravens fan or a Ravens backer to the Ravens offense, especially the passing, is probably the one that you would say is the most questionable. Couldn't have a better matchup. So if there was ever a game to, I don't want to say get right at this point of the season, but if there was ever a game to jumpstart Lamar getting a win or having a good matchup to build off of heading into the going further into the playoffs, it's like going up against the Titans defense, I think, is exactly that.
Because you want to talk about jumpstart, you played the Jaguars and Bengals recently. You want to talk about jumpstart, but
played the Giants also, which
Giants defense
is good, but when they're starting on the 40-yard line every time, then it doesn't matter how good your defense is.
But no, this is a really good matchup for them. I'm just curious of, obviously they're going to, just both teams, you want to talk about, using it to your advantage, when it comes to running read option, like, because you saw with Tennessee past few weeks with Tannehill, like two big plays, like the one big play they had against the Packers on Sunday night came through that. You just see how much defenses just respect Derrick Henry. It's like, we cannot let Derrick Henry beat us. And they get torched by it. Because Arthur Smith, just the timing that he does it. And then you just see Tannehill scooting freely into the end zone. Tannehill's a great athlete. So, the dual threat when it comes to both quarterbacks is definitely keeping an eye on. You obviously know Lamar's resume, but, Tannehill, I still think people kind of sleep on his athletic ability. Tannehill can move.
Yeah, I mean, every broadcast you hear them say how he was a wide receiver in college. But I think it's also, like, really impressive that you could – dude, like, how talented is that dude, man? To go from wide receiver to then being a really good – I mean, you
are a Tannehill guy.
Yeah,
I like Tannehill. Yeah.
I've always liked Tannehill.
I like Tannehill. I'm not
like,
crazy.
Look, not everyone's going to be fucking Aaron Rodgers and Pat Mahomes. Like, it's just not.
That's an Elkin way of putting it.
Yeah, like, you're not. But I don't want you to be fucking Brooks Bollinger. Like, I want you to be, I dropped some gems on
you
that
could have
right
said Billy Volek.
Billy Volek. Nah, dude, Billy Volek was like the GOAT backup. Joey in my phone is Billy Volek. Because in our flag football team, he would always be our backup quarterback. Billy Volek. So, dude, the year that I tore my ACL, he came in to, like, play quarterback after, and we got down to, like, the last play of the game. They had a chance to win it, and it was, like, a semifinal game in the playoffs. So I was like, bro, you're Billy Volek. You almost had us.
Yeah. But if you want to talk about matchups, though,
former Titan.
Yes,
there you go. Yeah.
I'm not going to mention Kyle Bowler or anything, but I am curious about how much Marcus Pierce could cover AJ Brown. Marcus Pierce has kind of had a down year, and he gambles a lot. I'm worried if Marcus Pierce has to tackle AJ Brown, he might go like flying.
Why don't you just throw Humphrey on him?
Well, that's what you would hope for. It's just Marcus Pierce is like arguably the worst tackling corner in the league, and you want to talk about after a catch. Like, I don't think there's anyone more devastating than AJ Brown after a catch. So that could be another matchup. There's so many intangibles about this game. I think it's just the most exciting game, especially offensively, because I think both offenses could easily score 30. It's just a matter of if Tennessee is playing from behind, and then you see Baltimore getting really creative. Because Don Martindale, there's a reason why. I know everyone's talking about Arthur Smith as a coach candidate. I think Don Martindale could get hired as well. I think he's one of the best defensive minds out there. So he could dial up a couple blitzes, and Tannehill could get forced into something. So. It's exciting.
Who are you picking?
I gotta go Ravens.
Yeah, man, I'm so conflicted on this one.
It's the toughest one, but I've been watching Titans defense. I'm really concerned about
So you think it's the Titans defense that lets them down?
And I just think Baltimore's defense, it just takes one turnover. And as much as I like Tannehill, you could get forced into it.
Yo, they also have a bad motherfucker kicking for them. I think Tucker is...
And you saw Titans, no Gostkowski, kicker, the doink, barely got in. At this time of year, especially, that's not an issue with the Rams. Like, even if the Rams are good, like, they have issues on special teams. Like, there's only 7 reliable kickers in the league.
Yeah, and they have the most reliable kicker probably. Right. So
as much as I love the Titans, it's just the lack of pass rush. Corners getting torched.
Damn, bro, why'd you wear the hat then? It's gonna be done after.
Look, I'm being objective, and I wear it this week so I can do it.
There you go.
I got nothing after this, man. The Vikings. The Vikings couldn't have been.
Don't worry, I have nothing after every week 11 for the last 3 years now. Unless some team that I just dump my money in.
Right. So I think this could be the best game of the weekend, but I'm Ryan Baltimore.
Man, I don't know. I don't know. I'm gonna go.
Tennessee's beat them twice in the past calendar year.
I'm gonna go with the Ravens also. Yeah. I think revenge and just listen, man. If you're a Lamar fan, you want this needs to be that 250 yards passing, 3 touchdowns, 1 on the ground, kind of just like. Yeah. And he does his dance,
right?
And everyone remembers.
If they win, you get Kansas City and that matchup you won last year. Albeit it'll be an Arrowhead this time compared to last year. It could have been Baltimore, but that Ravens Chiefs game everyone wanted last year, we could get this year.
Yeah,
that'd be great.
Yeah. All right. The most I think
this isn't more lopsided than Tampa Bay Washington. I think Tampa Bay Washington's more lopsided.
Yo, why do I have a gut feeling the Bears could pull this off?
Couple of Breeze turnovers. Eddie Jackson just randomly getting to end zone like he tends to do.
I just think it all depends on whether or not we get Kamara and if Michael Thomas is in there as well. Because I think that team is completely different with those 2 guys. I mean, look, I just mentioned 2 All-Pros, right? Like I'm not really talking about jobbers here. Right. We're talking about 2 of arguably the best players at their position, right. And especially what they mean to their team and what they mean to the quarterback. Target market share, it's like over 50% of the targets go to those 2 guys, and I might even be selling them short. I feel like the Saints defense is starting to come along. Is that fair to say?
They have been coming along. I would say for at least the last 2 months. They've been playing like a top 5 unit.
And this is an ideal matchup for them because I think what they would want to do is probably just, David Montgomery, the fun stops now. Like, this is where we're just going to make Trubisky beat us. And if he does, listen, I tip my cap to you. But I think that's their approach. I think they try to turn it into a shootout and have Trubisky have to play from behind.
If that's the case, then if you turn Trubisky into a drop back passer, it's kind of a wrap because like you watch that Green Bay game, like, outside like the deep shot to Darnell Mooney off the bootleg to the left. Ironically, Trubisky did make a nice throw off his left. I couldn't believe it. 2021 already, crazy things are happening. But besides that, like he was throwing passes 5-7 yards. Like there was nothing downfield. And you could just tell Nagy when it came to playing against a legitimate team, talk about the best team in the NFC, like they were just playing scared. And that's why this whole quote-unquote Trubisky resurgence is laughable because you look at the teams he's played against. Minnesota, which Mike Zimmer said it best, is the worst defense ever coached. Pretty clear. Then he did Detroit, Jacksonville, Houston, like some of the worst defensive units in the league. This is where he's been put up numbers. You go play Green Bay in what could have been a must-win scenario. I know Arizona lost, which they still got in, but Chicago was in a position where like, okay, we need to win. And the offense, like Allen Robinson didn't get a catch till the 3rd quarter. We're talking about Allen Robinson here. It's just, go ahead. And I do think David Montgomery is becoming a legitimately good running back. I'm still surprised by that, but like he's been putting up some serious numbers, and he breaks a lot of tackles. I'll give him his due. And if they're going to win, he's got to kind of be at the forefront. Him and Robinson got to be putting up numbers. So besides that, like if they don't run the ball, it's going to be a problem because New Orleans will put up points. I know there's issues, but look, you trust Sean Payton. He'll scheme something up. Taysom Hill make a couple free plays. Emmanuel Sanders is starting to get in the flow. You never know when Jared Cook could pop up for a big game.
Did you know the incentive based?
I did.
Bro, he celebrated.
I love him, man. How can you not love Emmanuel Sanders, man?
Yo, one of the more underappreciated and underrated wide receivers of our era.
He's really great.
Just So consistent, bro.
Yeah.
Like, was never, if he was your number 1 or 2 wide receiver on your fantasy team, you're like, yuck. But if he was your number 3 or flex option, you're like, he's the inspiration to our no tight end.
Damn.
So remember Charles Clay on the Bills?
Yeah.
Remember that one year?
I know more from Miami, but yeah.
There was that one year where like Charles Clay was like the tight end 9, and the debate came up with like
it's the most random name.
So we called it the Charles Clay like factor, and Manny Sanders was the example because my buddy Danny was like, we can't have tight ends. Like, we shouldn't play with tight ends. And then our buddy Gaetano and Vinny, they're the older kids from our neighborhood, and they play with no tight end for years. And like, you got to do no tight end. Right. And Danny was like, we should do no tight end because why the fuck do I got to play Charles Clay when I have Manny Sanders on my bench? Like, I want to play Manny Sanders. He's with Denver at the time, Peyton Manning is still there and shit. So you're saying to yourself, like, I have the option to play Peyton Manning's number 2 wide receiver over a bullshit ass tight end, and then the next year no tight end. So Manny Sanders and Charles Clay, the infamous 2 players for no tight end.
Another thing I want to know about Manuel Sanders is that even though he made the Super Bowl last year, I think he had 2 targets in those 2 games, because you remember San Francisco was just running over Minnesota.
Jimmy G and Ryan Tannehill had I think 42 combined attempts in those games up until the Super Bowl.
That Green Bay game was just complete wreck. Sanders barely got targeted, and you assume in this playoffs, maybe not so much this week, but they take care of business in Chicago. If they play, say, a Seattle, he's going to get targeted quite a bit. So at least he'll play an active role in the game plan, which, I'm excited for him. But I don't know, I just think this is, obviously, like we said, it's a pretty lopsided game. The only way I could see Chicago winning is if they capitalize on a couple Aaron Drew Brees passes, which is certainly possible. Because Brees still feels like he's 32 and he can make some downfield throws when I think it's pretty clear. If you're asking Brees to throw more than 20 yards, it's going to be a lame duck in the air.
There's a lot of reports that this is last year.
Obviously. Come on.
Yeah.
Dude, it's like Peyton Manning in 2015. You're watching.
You kind of knew.
He's a shell of himself.
Yeah. And those guys don't want to go out like that where they're has-beens.
Right.
You want to go out at
they're
least
barely functioning
shield.
right now. Brees, he just cannot push the ball downfield. And he's fortunate that he has a coach in Sean Payton that could scheme up, so many high percentage plays for him.
What about Saints-Bucks NFC title game? Jameis Winston starts against Tampa. J-Bo!
It would be Taysom Hill.
Nah, bro. For the culture, you got to go with Winston.
Sean Payton's giving no damn.
But I
can tell your interest in the game is very minimal.
It's minimal, but I'm skeptical of the Saints because I'm worried about those 2 guys being in there.
But how can Chicago really cause damage? Because Armstead, Ramczyk are the best tackles in the league, at least duo wise. As good as Khalil Mack is, he's been a little quiet this year. Robert Quinn's kind of been a bust.
So if you're the Bears,
I just don't know where the Bears could cause damage.
If you're the Bears, you're literally going into this game the way Minnesota did last year, and you want to ground the pound with David Montgomery, and you want to put in, maybe if you're the Bears, what about this for a game plan? You let shit open deep downfield, and you entice Drew Brees to think he can make those throws.
Well, I would assume you want to crowd the box in general, just because the threat of Kamara if he's playing. Right. Those dump offs to him, you want to have 8 men in the box there because,
dude, I'll never forget that throw to Ted Ginn last year against the Vikings where Ginn was 15 yards open and he underthrew him, and it's Drew Brees 6 months earlier probably makes that throw.
Right.
And it's just, I just think if you're Chicago, you're looking at a division opponent last year that went in there and they beat them, and you just try to copy that mold. And I know you don't have Dalvin Cook, and it's a lot easier said. And you don't have Diggs and Thielen, but you do have an Allen Robinson. I like Mooney more than most, but I just think that's the mold that you would go into this game with.
I think if you want to compare it to Vikings game from last year, that's my biggest concern. Obviously, Montgomery is nowhere near the player that Cook is, but I think coaching's big here because you got to look at Stefanski and Gary Kubiak were running that offense. And I'm not a Matt Nagy guy at all. I know he's somewhat high regard across the league, but I just think Minnesota has such a great coaching staff last year, and that was a big reason behind why they upset New Orleans. Because they completely, to me, they outplayed them.
Why is he so highly regarded across the league?
It comes from Andy Reid's coaching tree.
Is it because that first year was so good?
it really wasn't. Like, they ranked like 20th in offensive DVO.
I know, but they went 12-4.
I think they won 11-5. But I get what you mean. Yeah.
Right.
But I think their offense...
They won their division.
Yeah. But like their offense was like 20th in DVOA. I think everyone remembers that team for being the best defense in the league. What Vic Fangio did. Like, people still joke around to this day that Vic Fangio should get like part of that Coach of the Year award.
Bears 12-4 in 2018. So if you want to send the Venmo over this way,
I stand corrected.
No, but dude, think about it, right? Like, why is it that Matt Nagy's so highly respected? I get he's a disciple of Andy Reid, but it's like, is his first impression so great that?
I guess he's kind of like a clever play caller. Like, he's kind of someone that, you know, they use a lot of motion.
Maybe his X and O's is
yeah, like, that's why they kind of like him for that.
Fair.
But I don't know, some of his situational management is very concerning. But I just it's hard to see much. I do want to point out though, interesting tidbit, revenge game. Jimmy Graham, Akeem Hicks too.
Wow,
and I think Akeem Hicks is probably the bigger threat here. So you can keep that in mind. Dude, Jimmy Graham, will he do his little dance if he gets in the end zone?
Damn, he's definitely gonna dunk. He do his dunk. You think he can still get up there?
Yeah, I just wonder if he'll get more than like 3 targets.
Yeah, they also run like 4 different tight ends on that team.
Cole Kmet.
Okay, so what do you think? You're going with the Saints comfortably or close? What do you think?
They will win decisively.
Okay. Look, I'm gonna go with the Saints as well.
I think it's the second biggest blow of the week.
It's a 9-point spread. I would just be careful. I talk about it on the betting pod. It's one of those games where I'm getting some trap vibes in it, where it seems like it should be a route, and I'm just pursue with caution.
And we gotta see what's his health status.
Right, of course, yeah. That's why, like, everything changes if, like, and also, dude, that's something that we should just mention across the board. Like, people are popping up positive left and right, just more and more. So
next game we're talking about,
yeah,
prime example. But look, if Ty Montgomery's got to play, Sean Payton will make it work.